r/MaliciousCompliance boss played favorites, so I exposed his corruption to HR. Boss played favorites, so I exposed his corruption to HR. The email notification pinged at exactly 3:47 p.m. on a Tuesday that would change everything. I stared at my screen, reading the same 3 lines over and over until the words burned into my retinas. Asterisk, congratulations to Jake Morrison on his promotion to Senior Marketing Manager. Jake brings fresh perspective and will be leading our Q4 campaign initiatives. Please join us in the break room at 4 p.m. for cake. Asterisk. My hands trembled as I gripped my coffee mug. Jake Morrison. The same Jake Morrison who'd started here 6 months after me, who couldn't tell a conversion rate from a click-through rate, who spent more time planning happy hour than actual campaigns. The same Jake Morrison who happened to be best buddies with our boss, Derek, sharing weekend golf trips and Instagram stories of their brewery crawls. The promotion that should have been mine. I'd been grinding for 18 months at TechFlow Solutions, pulling 60-hour weeks, landing 3 major clients that brought in over $800,000 in revenue, and exceeding every single performance target they threw at me. My quarterly reviews were spotless. Hell, I'd literally trained Jake on half the systems he'd be managing now. Hey Sarah. Jake's voice made my skin crawl as he bounced over to my cubicle, still clutching Derek's congratulatory email printout like a trophy. Crazy news, right? Derek says he wants me to take point on the Henderson account. You know, the one you've been working on. The Henderson account. My baby. The $200,000 deal I'd been nurturing for 4 months, finally ready to close next week. That's great, Jake, I managed through gritted teeth. I'm sure Derek explained all the nuances of their requirements. Jake's blank stare told me everything. Oh, you can fill me in tomorrow. Derek said something about leveraging my leadership skills. He leaned against my desk, knocking over my perfectly organized stack of campaign reports. Plus, you know how it is, sometimes fresh eyes see opportunities that others miss. Fresh eyes. Right. The same fresh eyes that had confused our biggest competitor with a potential client in last month's presentation, nearly costing us a $50,000 contract that I had to scramble to save. As Jake wandered off to accept more congratulations from Derek's inner circle, the usual suspects who somehow always landed the best projects, raises, and recognition, I sat there watching my career stagnate in real time. Again. This wasn't just about me anymore. Over the past year, I'd watched 3 incredibly talented colleagues quit in frustration. Maria from graphic design, who Derek passed over for promotion in favor of his former fraternity brother. Kevin from analytics, whose innovative reporting system Derek credited to his golf partner Tom. And recently, Ashley from content creation, who left after Derek reassigned her award-winning campaign concept to his drinking buddy Mike. The pattern was so obvious it was insulting. If you weren't part of Derek's boys club, you were just furniture. Useful furniture that did the actual work while his favorites collected the credit, promotions, and bonuses. I minimized my email and opened a new document, my fingers hovering over the keyboard. For months, I'd been the perfect employee, following protocols, staying professional, believing that hard work would eventually pay off. But watching Jake celebrate in Derek's office while I sat here invisible was my breaking point. They wanted to play games. Fine. But this game had rules, policies, and paper trails. And I had access to all of it. Time to see how much Derek's favoritism was really costing this company. Time to document everything. Time for some malicious compliance. I stayed late that night, long after Derek's congratulatory happy hour moved from the break room to Murphy's pub down the street. The office felt different in the fluorescent twilight, quieter, but somehow more honest. Like the corporate masks had been stripped away, revealing the skeleton of what this place really was. My computer screen cast a blue glow across my face as I pulled up the shared drive folders I'd always had access to but never really explored. Funny how being a mid-level coordinator meant Derek trusted me with administrative privileges he probably forgot he'd granted. I could see expense reports, project budgets, client billing records, even salary information for comparative analysis purposes. The first red flag jumped out within 10 minutes. Derek's Q2 expense report showed $3,200 for client entertainment. But as I cross-referenced the dates with our CRM system, half those charges fell on weekends when we had 0 scheduled client meetings. The receipts painted a clearer picture: premium golf courses, high-end steakhouses, craft brewery tours. The guest lists on his submitted forms read like a who's who of his inner circle: Jake, Tom, Mike, and a rotating cast of his other favorites. I opened a new spreadsheet and started documenting. Date, expense amount, claimed business purpose, actual attendees, real business justification. The pattern was damning. But it got worse. The salary database made my stomach churn. Jake's starting salary was $8,000 higher than mine had been, despite having less experience and no marketing degree. Tom from sales was pulling in a base salary 15% above the industry standard for his role, while Maria, before she quit, had been making $12,000 below market rate for senior graphic designers. I pulled up the promotion guidelines from HR's policy manual. Every promotion was supposed to require documented performance reviews, peer feedback, and approval from at least 2 department heads. Jake's file contained a single performance review dated just last week, a glowing assessment that Derek had apparently written and approved himself, with no input from other managers who'd actually worked with Jake on projects. My phone buzzed with a text from my friend Lisa in accounting: *girl, Derek's crew is wasted at Murphy's. Jake just posted a story bragging about his promotion. This place is such BS. *. I screenshotted Jake's Instagram story before he could delete it tomorrow. There he was, raising a beer with Derek, Tom, and Mike, with the caption: when you know the right people. #blessed, #promotion, #work hard play hard. When you know the right people. He wasn't even trying to hide it. I dove deeper into the project allocation records. The Henderson account, my account, showed Derek had already reassigned it to Jake in the system, backdated to last week. But the client communication logs told a different story. Every email, every strategy session, every breakthrough moment was documented under my name up until today. Then I found something that made my blood run cold. The Meridian Industries proposal, the one that landed us our biggest contract this year, the one Derek presented to the board as an example of his department's innovative leadership, had my fingerprints all over it. Not just my work, but my actual login credentials were attached to every document creation timestamp. Derek had literally taken my proposal, presented it as his own strategic vision, and earned a $25,000 bonus for bringing in the client. I sat back in my chair, heart pounding. This wasn't just favoritism anymore. This was fraud. My computer pinged with an email notification. Derek, sending tomorrow's assignments from Murphy's Pub at 11:30 p.m. *, Sarah, need you to train Jake on Henderson account first thing tomorrow. Make sure he's up to speed for client meeting Thursday. Thanks for being a team player. *. Team player. Right. Time to play this game by the actual rules. I spent the next 3 days playing the perfect employee while secretly building my case. Training Jake on the Henderson account was torture, watching him nod along while clearly understanding maybe 30% of what I explained, then seeing him regurgitate my strategies to Derek as his own, fresh insights. But every painful interaction gave me more ammunition. So for the Henderson presentation, Jake said during our Thursday prep session, I'm thinking we go with a really innovative approach. What if we focused on their pain points and showed how our solution addresses their specific needs? I blinked at him. That's literally the entire foundation of the proposal I've been building for 4 months. Right, but like, with my leadership perspective, you know. He was already typing notes that looked suspiciously like he was copying my strategy document word for word. I documented everything. Screenshots of Jake's original ideas that were verbatim copies of my work. Email timestamps showing Derek's responses praising Jake's initiative on concepts I'd pitched weeks earlier. The paper trail was becoming an avalanche. That's when I discovered Derek's Slack messages. I'd been added to a project management channel months ago and forgotten about it, one of those background notifications you eventually tune out. But scrolling through the history, I found a private thread between Derek and Tom that made my stomach drop. * Derek, need to be careful with the Sarah situation. She's getting restless about the promotion. *. Tom, just keep her busy with grunt work. She's too valuable doing the actual stuff to promote anyway, lol. *. Derek, exactly. Jake can handle the client-facing role, Sarah can keep doing the heavy lifting behind the scenes. Best of both worlds. *. Tom, what if she complains to HR? *. Derek, Janet in HR and I go way back. College buddies. She knows how valuable my team is to the company. *. My hands shook as I screenshotted the conversation. They weren't just stealing my work, they were actively planning to keep me trapped in a role beneath my qualifications while taking credit for my results. And Derek had connections in HR. This was bigger than I'd realized. I started digging into Janet Morrison's background. Morrison. As in Jake Morrison. A quick LinkedIn search confirmed my worst suspicions, Janet was Jake's aunt. The HR director who was supposed to handle complaints about favoritism was literally family with Derek's newest golden boy. The web of corruption was spreading, but so was my evidence file. I had expense fraud totaling over $15,000 in fake client entertainment. Salary discrimination patterns affecting multiple employees. Promotion policy violations with fabricated performance reviews. Intellectual property theft of my proposals and strategies. Documented conspiracy to suppress my career advancement. Nepotism in HR that compromised the entire complaint process. But I needed more. Something so undeniable that even Janet Morrison couldn't sweep it under the rug. That's when Derek handed me the perfect opportunity. Sarah, he called from his office Friday morning, can you handle the Pinnacle Industries proposal? It's due Monday, and Jake's swamped with his new management responsibilities. Pinnacle Industries. A $400,000 potential contract that could make or break our Q4 numbers. Derek was essentially asking me to save the quarter while Jake took credit for overseeing the effort. Of course, I replied sweetly. I'll make sure it gets the attention it deserves. Oh, it would get attention all right. But not the kind Derek was expecting. I had a plan forming, something so perfectly compliant with company policy that Derek wouldn't see it coming until it was too late. Something that would expose the entire rotten system while protecting me from retaliation. Time to turn their own rules against them. The Pinnacle Industries proposal became my weapon of choice, but first I needed insurance against the Morrison family network. If Janet in HR was compromised, I'd have to get creative about documentation and witnesses. Monday morning, I submitted the most comprehensive proposal in company history. 63 pages of market analysis, competitive positioning, and strategic implementation that would make any client salivate. But here's the kicker, I followed company policy to the letter. According to TechFlow's intellectual property guidelines, all major proposals required multiple departmental sign-offs and had to be submitted through the official project management system with full attribution tracking. Derek usually bypassed this bureaucratic nightmare, but I made sure every single checkbox was ticked, every signature collected, every timestamp recorded. The proposal went into the system under my name, with my manager approval code, copied to the legal department for IP verification. Completely bulletproof. Derek didn't even read it before forwarding it to Jake with instructions to polish it up for the client presentation. I watched Jake stumble through the document during our Tuesday team meeting, mispronouncing synergistic and completely butchering the technical specifications I'd spent hours perfecting. But Derek beamed like a proud father, already calculating his bonus from the inevitable contract win. Outstanding work, Jake, Derek announced to the room. This is exactly the kind of strategic thinking we need in leadership positions. I smiled and took notes. Lots of notes. But my perfect plan hit its first snag Wednesday afternoon when I overheard Derek on a phone call with someone from upper management. Trust me, Richard, Jake's proposal is going to blow them away, Derek was saying, his office door cracked open just enough for sound to carry. The kid's a natural. Reminds me of myself at that age. My blood chilled when I caught the name. Richard Chen, the VP of Business Development. Derek was already selling Jake's brilliance up the corporate ladder, positioning him for even bigger opportunities. If Pinnacle signed, Jake wouldn't just get credit for my work, he'd become the company's golden boy at the executive level. I needed to accelerate my timeline. That evening, I stayed late again, but this time I wasn't alone. Kevin from IT was pulling an all-nighter fixing server issues. Kevin, who'd somehow avoided Derek's notice and actually seemed decent. More importantly, he had access to things I didn't. Hey Kevin, I said, approaching his desk with 2 cups of coffee. Rough night? Tell me about it, he groaned, accepting the caffeine gratefully. Derek's been demanding I prioritize system access for his team, but half their requests violate security protocols. I've been trying to figure out how to push back without getting fired. My pulse quickened. What kind of requests? Kevin glanced around the empty office, then leaned closer. Jake somehow got administrator privileges he shouldn't have. Tom's been accessing client files outside his department authorization. And Derek. Kevin hesitated. What about Derek? He's been pulling salary data, performance reviews, stuff that should be restricted to HR. I flagged it to Janet Morrison, but she said it was approved for managerial planning purposes. Kevin's air quotes dripped with skepticism. This was it. The smoking gun I needed. Derek wasn't just playing favorites, he was actively manipulating HR data, probably to justify his corrupt promotion decisions after the fact. Kevin, I said carefully, how detailed are the access logs? Every click, every file opened, every download. Company policy requires 6 months of detailed tracking. His eyes narrowed. Why do you ask? I made a decision that could change everything. Because I think Derek's been systematically corrupting the promotion process, and I need proof that'll stick even if HR tries to cover it up. Kevin stared at me for a long moment. Finally, he spoke. Sarah, if you're planning what I think you're planning, you better be absolutely sure. Derek has friends in high places. So do I lied smoothly. But I need those access logs. Kevin's fingers hovered over his keyboard. This could get us both fired. We'll get fired anyway if this continues. You said it yourself, they're already pressuring you to violate security protocols. How long before they make you the scapegoat for their policy violations? That landed. Kevin's jaw tightened as he pulled up the system logs. Thursday morning, he said quietly. I'll have everything ready Thursday morning. But Sarah? Yeah. Whatever you're planning, make it count. We won't get a second chance. Thursday morning arrived with the weight of inevitability. I sat at my desk, pretending to review campaign metrics while Kevin discreetly slipped me a USB drive during his routine system check rounds. The small device felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds in my palm. But before I could even plug it in, Derek's voice boomed across the office. Team meeting, conference room B, now. My stomach dropped. Emergency meetings were never good news, especially when Derek looked this smug. The entire marketing department filed into the cramped conference room, with Derek practically vibrating with excitement at the head of the table. Jake sat beside him, wearing a shit-eating grin that made me want to scream. I have incredible news, Derek announced, his voice dripping with false modesty. Jake's Pinnacle Industries proposal didn't just impress them, they're fast-tracking the contract signing. We're looking at a $400,000 deal closing by end of week. The room erupted in congratulations while I sat frozen, watching my work being credited to someone else in real time. But Derek wasn't finished. More importantly, this kind of exceptional performance has caught the attention of senior leadership. I'm proud to announce that Jake will be presenting our Q4 strategy to the board next Tuesday. My vision tunneled. The board presentation was the holy grail, a direct pipeline to executive visibility and career advancement. Jake would be presenting my strategies, my client wins, my innovations to the company's top decision makers. Jake will need support preparing for such a high-stakes presentation, Derek continued, his eyes finding mine across the room. Sarah, I know I can count on you to help him polish the technical details. You're so good at that behind-the-scenes work. Behind-the-scenes work. Like I was some kind of invisible ghostwriter for Jake's career ascension. Of course, I managed, my voice sounding distant to my own ears. Whatever the team needs. As the meeting dissolved into chatter about celebration drinks, I noticed something that made my blood freeze. Janet Morrison had slipped into the back of the room during Derek's announcement. She caught my eye and smiled, a cold, knowing smile that said she was fully aware of what I might be planning. Back at my desk, I discreetly plugged in Kevin's USB drive, my hands trembling slightly. The access logs painted an even darker picture than I'd imagined. Derek had been systematically accessing confidential employee files for months, downloading performance reviews, salary data, even personal information like emergency contacts and family details. But the most damning evidence was timestamped just 2 days ago. Derek had accessed and modified Jake's performance history, backdating positive reviews and inflating metrics to justify the board presentation assignment. Then I found something that made my breath catch. Derek had pulled my entire personnel file, including my original job application, reference letters, and salary negotiation emails. More chilling, he'd accessed similar files from Maria, Kevin from Analytics, and Ashley. Every employee who'd either quit in frustration or posed a potential threat to his system. He wasn't just playing favorites. He was building profiles on perceived threats. My computer pinged with a calendar invite that made my heart stop. Performance review meeting, Sarah Chin, Friday 2 p.m., attendees, Derek Williams, Janet Morrison, HR. A performance review that wasn't scheduled until next month, moved up without explanation, with HR present. This wasn't coincidence. I quickly saved Kevin's files to an encrypted folder and ejected the drive, but my paranoia was spiking. Janet's appearance at today's meeting, the sudden performance review, Derek's file access, they knew something. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number, coffee. We should talk. Kevin, I found Kevin at the Starbucks 2 blocks from our office, hunched over his laptop with the haunted expression of someone who'd seen too much. We have a problem, he said without preamble. Janet Morrison requested a full audit of my system access logs this morning. She specifically asked about any unusual file sharing or data exports. My coffee turned to acid in my stomach. Did you tell her anything? I played dumb, said I'd need time to compile the reports. But Sarah. Kevin's eyes were grim. She knows. Somehow, they know we're onto them. The walls were closing in faster than I'd anticipated. My carefully planned documentation strategy was about to be exposed before I could use it. How long do we have? I asked. Maybe until tomorrow's performance review. Maybe less. Kevin leaned forward urgently. Whatever evidence you've gathered, you need to use it now. Today. Before they can destroy it or discredit us. The nuclear option. Going public before I had every piece perfectly arranged. It was time to burn it all down. I stared at my reflection in the Starbucks window, watching office workers hurry past in their corporate uniforms, oblivious to the war brewing 2 blocks away. Kevin was right, I had maybe hours before Derek and Janet could spin this narrative against me. But going nuclear meant abandoning my careful, methodical approach for something messier and infinitely more dangerous. There's something else, Kevin said, pulling up his phone. I've been monitoring network traffic since yesterday. Derek's been in constant communication with someone outside the company. Encrypted messages, file transfers, way above his usual tech skill level. My skin crawled. What kind of files? Personnel records, project documentation, client information. It's like he's building a dossier. Kevin's voice dropped lower. Sarah, what if this goes beyond just our office? What if TechFlow is part of something bigger? Before I could process that terrifying possibility, my phone exploded with notifications. Instagram, LinkedIn, company Slack, Jake was broadcasting his Pinnacle Industries victory across every platform, tagging Derek and thanking him for believing in fresh talent. The comments were pouring in from colleagues, clients, even competitors congratulating him on work that was entirely mine. But one comment made my blood freeze, can't wait to see what Jake presents to the board. Innovation like this deserves recognition at the highest levels. Richard Chen, VP Business Development, The board presentation wasn't just career advancement for Jake anymore. Richard Chen was publicly staking his reputation on Jake's innovation. If I exposed the truth now, I wouldn't just be taking down Derek's corruption, I'd be embarrassing a VP who'd already committed to supporting a fraud. Kevin noticed my expression. What is it? I showed him the comment thread, watching his face pale as the implications sank in. This isn't just departmental politics anymore. We're talking about humiliating senior leadership. Which means they'll fight twice as hard to bury us, I whispered. My phone rang, Derek's extension. I stared at the screen, every instinct screaming not to answer. But avoiding him now would only confirm their suspicions. Sarah. Great news, Derek's voice was artificially cheerful, but I could hear the undertone of something sharper. The Pinnacle client wants to meet Jake tomorrow for an informal lunch. You know, get to know the brilliant mind behind the proposal. The brilliant mind. I gripped my phone tighter. That's wonderful. I need you to prep a briefing document for Jake. All the technical details, background research, strategic rationale, you know, the boring stuff that might come up in conversation. His laugh felt like nails on a chalkboard. Can you have that ready by end of day? He was asking me to create a cheat sheet so Jake could convincingly take credit for my work in front of the client. The audacity was breathtaking. Of course. I'll make sure Jake has everything he needs to succeed. Knew I could count on you. Oh, and Sarah. Don't forget about our meeting tomorrow. Janet's excited to discuss your future here. The line went dead, and I sat staring at my phone while Kevin watched with growing alarm. They're accelerating everything, I said slowly. The client meeting, the board presentation, my performance review. They want this locked down before I can cause problems. Kevin closed his laptop with grim determination. Then we accelerate too. Tonight. We dump everything we have and let the chips fall where they land. I nodded, but my mind was racing beyond just exposing Derek's corruption. If Richard Chen was already committed to Jake's success, if Janet Morrison was covering for family, if Derek had outside connections Kevin couldn't identify, how many people were we really fighting? And more importantly, did we have any allies left who weren't already compromised? My phone buzzed with one final text that made my decision for me, looking forward to tomorrow's discussion about your career trajectory. Janet Morrison, Career trajectory. Like she was planning to redirect it straight off a cliff. Time to find out how deep this rabbit hole really went. I drove home that evening with Kevin's USB drive burning a hole in my purse and a plan forming that scared me more than staying silent. But first, I needed to know exactly who I was fighting. My laptop hummed to life on my kitchen table as I spread out printed documents like a war room strategist. The access logs Kevin had provided were damning, but I needed to understand the connections before I made my move. One mistake now in Derek's network would crush me completely. I started with LinkedIn, mapping out the relationships I'd already discovered. Derek to Richard Chen, college roommates at UC Berkeley. Janet Morrison to Jake Morrison, family. But as I dug deeper into Derek's connections, a more disturbing picture emerged. Tom Brennan, Derek's golf buddy who'd been promoted to senior sales manager, was connected to Marcus Webb, TechFlow's chief operating officer. Their relationship went back 12 years to a previous company called Innovate Systems. I pulled up Innovate's history and felt my stomach drop. The company had folded amid allegations of contract fraud and employee discrimination, though no charges were ever filed. Derek, Tom, Marcus, and 2 other current TechFlow employees had all worked at Innovate Systems during the same period. This wasn't just workplace favoritism. This was a coordinated network that had potentially moved together from company to company. My phone rang, startling me from my research spiral. Unknown number. Sarah. It's Ashley. The voice of my former colleague who'd quit last month sounded strained. I heard through the grapevine that you might be having some issues with Derek. Ashley. How did you get this number? Maria gave it to me. Look, I know this sounds paranoid, but is your phone secure? Can we meet somewhere? 20 minutes later, I was sitting across from Ashley in a 24-hour diner 15 minutes from my apartment, watching her nervously shred napkins while she spoke. After I left TechFlow, I thought I was done with Derek's bullshit, she began. But last week, I interviewed at Meridian Corp, you know, that big client you landed for the company. My pulse quickened. What happened? The hiring manager mentioned that Derek had reached out personally about my performance issues at TechFlow. Said I had trouble with teamwork and meeting deadlines. Ashley's voice cracked slightly. Sarah, I never had performance issues. My reviews were stellar. But somehow Derek convinced a potential employer that I was a problem hire. The room tilted slightly. Derek was actively sabotaging former employees who might expose his system. There's more, Ashley continued. I talked to Maria after the interview fell through. She's had 3 job opportunities disappear after reference checks. 3 different companies, all with the same story. Former manager had concerns about her reliability. My hands were shaking now. Ashley, I'm scheduled for a performance review tomorrow with Derek and HR. An unscheduled review. Her face went white. Sarah, you need to get out. Tonight. Before that meeting happens. I can't just run. I have evidence, documentation that could expose everything. Evidence doesn't matter if they destroy your reputation first. Ashley leaned across the table urgently. Whatever you think you know, they're 3 steps ahead. Derek's been building cases against problem employees for months, maybe years. False performance complaints, manufactured disciplinary actions, witness testimony from his inner circle. The full scope of Derek's operation hit me like a freight train. He wasn't just stealing credit and manipulating promotions, he was systematically destroying anyone who threatened his network, both inside the company and after they left. How many people? I whispered. Maria thinks at least 8 former employees over the past 2 years. All the good ones who asked too many questions or outperformed his favorites. Ashley's expression was haunted. Sarah, they didn't just want us gone. They wanted us unemployable. I thought about Kevin's discovery of Derek's encrypted communications, the personnel files he'd accessed, the mysterious outside connections. This wasn't just corruption, it was a coordinated campaign of career assassination. My phone buzzed with an email notification. Derek, sent at 11:47 p.m. Asterisk Sarah, I've been reviewing your recent work performance with Janet, and we have some concerns we need to discuss tomorrow. Please bring any project files you've been working on independently. Looking forward to clearing the air. Derek asterisk. Ashley saw my expression and grabbed my wrist. They're making their move tonight. Whatever evidence you have, you need to use it right now, before that meeting happens. But as I stared at Derek's email, a terrifying realization washed over me. If they were requesting my project files, they already knew about my investigation. Which meant someone had been watching me all along. The question was, who else was working for Derek that I hadn't identified yet? I sat in my car outside the diner, engine running but going nowhere, while Ashley's warnings echoed in my head. Derek's late-night email glowed on my phone screen like a threat, but something about the timing bothered me. How did he know to send it right after I'd met with Ashley? My paranoia kicked into overdrive as I scrolled through my recent contacts, messages, location data. Had someone been tracking my movements? Monitoring my communications? The thought made my skin crawl, but I forced myself to think logically. Then it hit me. Jake's Instagram posts about the Pinnacle deal had been geotagged. Not just the office location, but specific timestamps that aligned perfectly with moments I'd been documenting evidence. Someone had been using social media to track when I was at my desk, when I was away, when I might be accessing files I shouldn't. I pulled up Jake's Instagram history with trembling fingers, and my worst fears crystallized. Every major post over the past month had been strategically timed. His celebration dinner posts coincided with evenings I'd stayed late gathering evidence. His weekend golf photos with Derek were timestamped during hours when I'd accessed the shared drives from home. They'd been watching me the entire time. But if that was true, why let me gather so much damaging evidence? Why wait until now to make their move? My phone rang, and Kevin's name appeared on the screen. Sarah, we have a massive problem. His voice was tight with panic. I just got called into an emergency IT security meeting. Janet Morrison is claiming there's been a data breach in the marketing department. My blood turned to ice. What kind of data breach? Client files, personnel records, project documentation. Someone allegedly copied confidential information to external devices. Kevin's voice dropped to a whisper. Sarah, they're setting us up. The security logs they want me to review are going to show your computer accessing files outside your authorization level. The trap snapped shut around me with perfect clarity. Derek hadn't been sloppy about covering his tracks, he'd been deliberately leaving evidence for me to find. Every document I'd accessed, every file I'd copied, every piece of damning information I'd gathered was creating a digital trail that painted me as a corporate spy stealing company secrets. Kevin, get out of there, I said urgently. If they're calling emergency meetings at midnight, they're moving faster than we thought. I can't just leave. If I don't show up, it confirms their suspicions. His breathing was rapid, stressed. But Sarah, there's something else. The security footage they want to review includes the parking garage, the elevator access logs, even the building entry records. My meeting with Kevin at Starbucks, my late-night evidence gathering, my USB drive exchange, all of it captured on corporate security systems that Derek's network could access and manipulate. They're going to say I was selling company secrets, I whispered, the full scope of the framed job becoming clear. That's why they let me gather so much evidence. Every file I access becomes proof of corporate espionage. Worse than that, Kevin's voice cracked. If they can prove you were stealing confidential client information, it's not just termination. Sarah, we could be talking about criminal charges. The parking lot around me felt suddenly hostile, every shadow potentially hiding corporate security or worse. Derek's network wasn't just destroying careers, they were setting up former employees for prosecution, ensuring they'd never work in the industry again while simultaneously discrediting any evidence of corruption. Kevin, they're going to ask you to testify that I pressured you into accessing restricted files. I know. His silence stretched painfully. Sarah, I want to do the right thing, but I have a family. If I don't cooperate, they'll claim I was part of the conspiracy. The isolation was complete. Ashley and Maria were already blacklisted, Kevin was being coerced into betraying me, and HR was compromised from the top. Derek's network had anticipated every move, neutralized every potential ally, and turned my own investigation into a weapon against me. Tomorrow's performance review wasn't just about my job anymore. It was the final act of a carefully orchestrated destruction designed to bury me so thoroughly that the truth would die with my reputation. But I wasn't going down without a fight. If Derek wanted to play the criminal conspiracy card, then it was time to give him a real conspiracy to worry about. I drove straight to Kevin's apartment, my mind racing through possibilities. If they were monitoring my phone, my car's GPS, even my building access, then I needed to go completely off-grid for the next few hours. Time to fight dirty. Kevin answered his door looking like he'd aged 5 years in the past hour. Sarah, you can't be here. If they see us together. They already think we're conspirators. I cut him off, pushing past him into his living room. So let's give them something real to conspire about. I pulled out my laptop and started typing furiously. You said they want you to testify that I pressured you into accessing files, right? Well, what if we flip the script entirely? Kevin stared at me like I'd lost my mind. What are you talking about? Think about it. Derek's been accessing restricted files for months without authorization. You have the logs proving it. But what if we documented you discovering the unauthorized access and reporting it through proper channels? Kevin's eyes widened as he caught on. A whistleblower report. Filed before their emergency meeting. Exactly. If we backdate a formal IT security concern about Derek's file access, suddenly your cooperation with me becomes part of your job investigating a legitimate security threat. I was typing as fast as I could think. We turned their framed job into evidence that we were actually protecting company assets. But the timestamps can be explained as us gathering evidence to support your security report. I pulled up the TechFlow employee handbook on my phone. Look at section 12.3. Employees who discover potential security violations are required to document the scope of unauthorized access before reporting to management. Kevin ran his hands through his hair, torn between hope and terror. Sarah, this is insane. If we get caught manipulating evidence, we're not manipulating anything. We're filing a legitimate security report about Derek's actual unauthorized access. Everything we documented is true. I showed him the screen. The only thing we're doing is making sure it's filed before they can spin our investigation as corporate espionage. My fingers flew across the keyboard, crafting a formal whistleblower complaint that reframed every piece of evidence we'd gathered. Derek's expense fraud became misuse of corporate funds requiring investigation. His salary manipulations became potential HR database compromise. His file access became unauthorized personnel record breach. Kevin, your system logs show Derek accessing files he shouldn't have, right? Yes, but... And company policy requires you to report suspected security violations within 24 hours of discovery? Yes. Then we're not conspirators. You're doing your job, and I'm a concerned employee providing information to support a legitimate security investigation. I hit submit on the formal complaint, filing it through TechFlow's anonymous whistleblower portal at exactly 1:23 a.m. The timestamp would show that Kevin's security concerns were officially documented before their emergency meeting, before my performance review, before they could paint us as criminals. Kevin stared at the confirmation screen in amazement. Holy shit. This might actually work. But my phone was already buzzing with new problems. A text from an unknown number, asterisk, saw your car at Kevin's building. Interesting choice for someone claiming innocence. J asterisk. Jake. Somehow, Derek's network was tracking my movements in real time. Kevin, they have eyes on us right now, I said, showing him the message. Which means they're more desperate than we thought. Kevin peered through his blinds at the parking lot below. There's a black sedan that wasn't there when you arrived. The net was tightening, but now I had a new weapon. If they were surveilling us illegally, documenting our private communications, tracking our off-hours movements, then Derek's network was committing actual crimes that went far beyond workplace corruption. Time to find out just how far they were willing to go to protect their system. And more importantly, time to start documenting everything they did next. I grabbed Kevin's laptop and started recording everything. If they want to play surveillance games, let's make sure we document their illegal activity. Kevin looked confused until I explained. Think about it, how did Jake know I was at your apartment? They're either tracking my phone without consent, following me physically, or monitoring building security footage they shouldn't have access to. All of that is illegal. I positioned my phone to record the black sedan while typing furiously. We need to create a timeline of their stalking behavior. Every text, every suspicious coincidence, every way they've been monitoring employees. Sarah, this is getting really dangerous, Kevin whispered, still watching the car below. What if they're not just trying to fire us? What if Derek's network has connections we don't know about? Before I could answer, my phone erupted with notifications. Someone was systematically going through my social media accounts, liking old posts, commenting on photos from years ago. But these weren't random, they were strategic. Every like was on posts that showed me at bars, parties, or looking unprofessional. Someone was building a digital narrative of me as unreliable. They're poisoning my online presence in real time, I breathed, watching my Instagram activity feed flood with interactions that made me look reckless. Look at this, they're commenting on a picture from 2019 where I'm holding a cocktail, saying things like, hope you're staying responsible at work. Kevin checked his own accounts and went pale. Mine too. Someone just tagged me in a post about employees who can't be trusted with sensitive information. The psychological warfare was escalating beyond anything I'd imagined. They weren't just planning to destroy our careers, they were systematically dismantling our entire professional reputations across every platform where future employers might look. Then my phone rang. Derek's number, at 2:15 a.m. Answer it, Kevin urged. But put it on speaker. We need to document whatever he says. I hit record on Kevin's phone before accepting the call. Hello. Sarah, I'm disappointed. Derek's voice was cold, all pretense of managerial friendliness gone. I really hoped we could handle this situation professionally. I'm not sure what you mean, Derek. I was just. Cut the bullshit. We know about your little conspiracy with Kevin. The question is whether you want this to end quietly or if you prefer the criminal investigation route. My blood chilled, but I forced my voice to stay steady. Derek, I think there might be some misunderstanding. The misunderstanding, Derek interrupted, is you thinking you're smarter than people who've been playing this game longer than you've been alive. Did you really think we didn't know about every file you accessed, every conversation you recorded, every pathetic attempt to build a case? Kevin gripped my arm, eyes wide with terror. Derek continued, his voice taking on an almost amused tone. Here's what's going to happen. Tomorrow's meeting is your chance to resign quietly with a decent reference letter. Kevin gets transferred to a different department where he can pretend none of this happened. Everyone moves on. And if we don't agree? Derek's laugh was genuinely chilling. Then you become an example of what happens to employees who steal confidential information and attempt corporate sabotage. Your choice, Sarah. But I'd decide quickly, the authorities take theft of client data very seriously. The line went dead, leaving us staring at each other in the suffocating silence of Kevin's apartment. We're fucked, Kevin whispered. But looking at my phone's recording app, still capturing everything, I realized Derek had just made a critical mistake. He'd essentially admitted to surveilling us, threatened us with false criminal charges, and revealed that tomorrow's meeting was predetermined regardless of any evidence. Actually, I said slowly, I think Derek just handed us exactly what we needed. Time to turn his threats into his downfall. The recording of Derek's threatening phone call felt like a loaded weapon in my digital arsenal, but I barely had time to process our tactical advantage before Kevin's laptop chimed with an urgent email notification. What now? I muttered, leaning over his shoulder as he opened what appeared to be a mass company-wide message sent at 2:47 a.m. Subject, Urgent Security Alert, Employee Data Breach Investigation. Asterisk team, we've discovered unauthorized access to confidential client and personnel files. Effective immediately, all employees are prohibited from accessing shared drives until our investigation concludes. Any employee found with company data on personal devices will face immediate termination and potential legal action. Report suspicious activity to Janet Morrison immediately. Marcus Webb, COO asterisk. My stomach dropped as the implications hit me. They're not waiting until tomorrow. They're locking down access right now, making anyone with downloaded files look guilty. Kevin frantically checked his system access and confirmed my worst fears. I'm completely locked out. Can't even access my own department's folders anymore. His face went ashen. Sarah, this means they can claim anything we documented was stolen before the security lockdown. But something about the timing bothered me. Marcus Webb sending company-wide alerts in the middle of the night, the immediate system lockdown, the escalation from departmental politics to corporate security theater, it felt desperate, not strategic. Kevin, what if we forced their hand too early? I said, pulling up my phone's recording of Derek's call. Think about it, they went from careful manipulation to full-scale panic mode in one night. That's not the behavior of people who feel in control. My phone buzzed with a text from another unknown number, asterisk, check your email. Time sensitive. A friend, asterisk. I hesitated, paranoid about every unknown contact now, but curiosity won. The email was from a Proton Mail account with an encrypted attachment and a message that made my pulse race. Asterisk, Sarah, I heard through mutual connections that you're having issues with certain tech flow management. I experienced similar problems at Innovate Systems before Derek's team moved to your company. The attached files might interest you. Be very careful who you trust. MK. Asterisk. The attachment required a password, but the email included a hint, the name of the company where it all started. Innovate Systems, I whispered, typing the password with shaking fingers. What downloaded was a treasure trove that dwarfed everything Kevin and I had uncovered. Personnel files from Innovate Systems showing the same pattern of favoritism and retaliation. Legal documents from a class action lawsuit that had been quietly settled. Internal emails between Derek, Marcus Webb, and 3 other current TechFlow employees discussing strategies for managing problematic staff and maintaining operational efficiency. But the most damning evidence was a series of recorded phone calls. Apparently, someone at Innovate had been documenting Derek's network for years. I clicked play on one file dated just 6 months before Innovate's collapse. Derek's voice, younger but unmistakably him. The beauty of the system is that problem employees eliminate themselves. A few strategic performance complaints, some creative documentation, and they either quit or get fired for cause. No severance, no unemployment claims, no legal exposure. An unknown voice responded, what about wrongful termination suits? That's why we keep Marcus in operations and Janet in HR. Between the 3 departments, we can manufacture justification for anything. The key is making it look like natural consequences for poor performance. Kevin grabbed my arm as the recording continued, outlining systematic fraud, illegal retaliation, and conspiracy to commit wrongful termination across multiple companies. This wasn't just workplace corruption, it was an organized criminal enterprise that had been operating for over a decade. Who is MK? Kevin whispered. I checked the metadata on the files and found a digital signature, Michelle Kumar, former legal counsel, Innovate Systems. A whistleblower with legal training who'd been building a case against Derek's network for years. Someone with the resources and knowledge to fight them properly. But as I reached for my phone to respond to the mysterious email, Kevin's apartment suddenly flooded with red and blue flashing lights from the parking lot below. Police, Kevin breathed, peering through the blinds. 2 patrol cars and an unmarked sedan. They'd escalated beyond corporate retaliation. Derek's network was bringing in law enforcement to complete their framed job. Time was up, but now I had evidence that could destroy them all, if I could survive the next few hours to use it. The police sirens cut through the night air like a death knell, but as I watched the officers approach Kevin's building, something felt wrong about their response. Too casual, too routine for what should have been a corporate espionage emergency. Wait, I whispered, pulling Kevin back from the window. Look at their body language. They're not treating this like a felony investigation. The lead officer was checking his phone, looking bored. His partner was actually laughing at something. These weren't cops responding to reports of stolen corporate secrets, they were responding to a noise complaint or welfare check. My phone buzzed with another message from the mysterious MK, asterisk, don't panic. The police visit is routine, someone called in a domestic disturbance at Kevin's address. Classic intimidation tactic. Stay calm, don't answer the door with devices visible, and text me when they leave. Asterisk. Relief flooded through me, followed immediately by rage. Derek's network was using false police reports to harass us, knowing we'd panic and potentially destroy evidence or flee. It was psychological warfare designed to make us act guilty. Kevin, hide the laptops, I hissed. This is just intimidation, but we can't let them see any devices if they somehow get inside. We quickly stashed our equipment in his bedroom closet just as the doorbell rang. Kevin answered while I stayed in the kitchen, listening to his conversation with the officers. Evening, sir. We got a noise complaint from a neighbor. Everything okay here? Noise complaint? Kevin's confusion was genuine. Officer, it's just me and a coworker discussing a work project. We've been keeping our voices down. Mind if we take a quick look around? Just standard procedure. My heart hammered as footsteps moved through Kevin's living room. The officers were professional but thorough, clearly looking for signs of whatever the anonymous caller had reported. After a tense 5 minutes, they seemed satisfied and left with warnings about keeping noise levels down during late hours. As soon as their car pulled away, my phone exploded with notifications. Multiple missed calls from Derek, text messages from Jake, and most ominously, a voicemail from someone claiming to be building security who needed to discuss irregularities in my access card usage. But Michelle Kumar's encrypted message was still open on my phone, and I realized she'd been watching this entire situation unfold in real time. Asterisk, Sarah, they're accelerating their timeline because you found something that scares them. The police visit was meant to rattle you into making mistakes. Don't take the bait. How much of the innovate evidence were you able to review? Asterisk. I quickly typed back, asterisk, enough to understand this is much bigger than I thought. But they've locked down all our systems and are setting up criminal charges. How do I use your evidence without access to company networks? Asterisk. Her response came immediately, asterisk, you don't need their networks anymore. Forward everything you've gathered to this secure email address, then meet me tomorrow at 8 a.m., Riverside Cafe on 5th Street. Come alone, bring nothing electronic, and don't tell Kevin or anyone else about this meeting. Asterisk. The warning about Kevin stung, but I was starting to understand that trust was a luxury I couldn't afford. Even Kevin, faced with criminal charges and threats to his family, might be forced to choose survival over solidarity. One more thing, Michelle's message continued. Asterisk, Derek's 3 a.m. email lockdown wasn't just about containing your evidence. My sources say they're planning to plant additional incriminating files on your work computer tomorrow morning, then discover them during your performance review. Don't go into that office under any circumstances. Asterisk. The trap was even more elaborate than I'd realized. They weren't just framing me with files I'd actually accessed, they were going to plant fake evidence to guarantee criminal charges would stick. But if Michelle Kumar had been tracking Derek's network for years, if she had legal resources and evidence from multiple companies, then maybe I finally had an ally with the power to fight back. Tomorrow's meeting could either save my career or destroy my life completely. The morning of my supposed performance review arrived gray and drizzling, matching my mood perfectly. I'd spent the night pacing my apartment, alternating between terror and rage while Michelle Kumar's warnings echoed in my head. Don't go to the office. They're planting evidence. Trust no one. At 7:30 a.m., I sat in my car across from Riverside Cafe, watching early commuters hurry past with their predictable routines while my entire world balanced on the edge of collapse. My phone had been buzzing non-stop since 6 a.m., Derek demanding to know why I wasn't in the office yet, Jake sending passive-aggressive texts about team accountability, and most disturbingly, 3 calls from a number that claimed to be TechFlow's legal department. I'd ignored them all, but each missed call felt like another nail in my professional coffin. At exactly 8 a.m., a woman in her 40s approached my car window. Petite, sharp-eyed, carrying herself with the confidence of someone who'd survived corporate warfare and lived to tell about it. Michelle Kumar looked exactly like what I'd hoped for, competent, battle-tested, and absolutely furious. Sarah. She gestured toward the cafe. We need to talk. Now. Inside the cafe's back corner booth, Michelle spread out a manila folder that made my evidence collection look amateur by comparison. Photographs of documents, recorded conversations, financial records spanning 3 companies and nearly 15 years. Derek Williams isn't just a corrupt middle manager, she began without preamble. He's the operational arm of a systematic employment fraud network. Marcus Webb provides corporate cover from the executive level, Janet Morrison handles HR compliance, and they've been moving from company to company like a virus. My coffee grew cold as Michelle outlined the scope of their operation. Innovate Systems, Meridian Corp., now TechFlow. Same pattern every time, infiltrate management, establish their network of favorites, systematically eliminate threats, extract maximum value, then move on before the legal consequences catch up. How many victims? I asked, though I wasn't sure I wanted to know. Conservatively. Over 200 employees across 4 companies. Wrongful terminations, stolen intellectual property, fraudulent expense claims, illegal retaliation. The pattern is so consistent it's basically a criminal enterprise masquerading as corporate management. She pulled out a thick legal document. The good news is that I've been building a federal case for 3 years. The bad news is that you stumbled into their operation right as they were planning their exit strategy from TechFlow. My blood chilled. Exit strategy. My sources indicate they're planning to move to Pinnacle Industries, ironically, the company that just signed your proposal. Derek's been positioning himself for a senior role there, bringing his core team as a package deal. But first, they need to eliminate any potential witnesses who might cause problems later. The pieces clicked into place with sickening clarity. The rushed timeline, the escalated retaliation, the planted evidence, they weren't just trying to silence me. They were preparing to abandon TechFlow entirely, leaving behind a trail of destroyed careers and no witnesses to their systematic fraud. Sarah, they're not planning to just fire you, Michelle continued grimly. They need you discredited so thoroughly that even if you tried to expose them later, no one would believe a disgruntled former employee with a criminal record. My phone buzzed with another call from TechFlow Legal, and Michelle's expression darkened as she saw the screen. They're accelerating faster than I expected, she muttered. That's not TechFlow's legal department, it's a private firm Derek's network uses to intimidate witnesses. Outside the cafe window, I spotted a familiar black sedan circling the parking lot. The same car that had been outside Kevin's apartment last night. Michelle, I whispered, I think we have company. She followed my gaze and immediately began packing up her documents. Time to go. They've been tracking you, which means they know about our meeting. As we prepared to leave through the cafe's back exit, my phone rang one final time. Derek's number, but when I ignored it, Michelle's phone immediately started buzzing. Someone had connected us, which meant Derek's network was even more extensive than we'd realized. We were walking into a trap with eyes wide open, but now there was no way out except straight through. Michelle and I made it exactly 3 blocks from the cafe before her phone rang with a number that made her face go white. Richard Chen, she whispered, showing me the screen. TechFlow's VP of Business Development. How the hell does he have my personal number? The pieces clicked with terrifying clarity. Richard wasn't just Derek's college buddy who'd been fooled by Jake's stolen presentation, he was part of the network. Had been all along. Don't answer, I urged, but Michelle was already swiping to accept. Michelle Kumar speaking, she said, her lawyer voice crisp and controlled. Richard's voice was loud enough for me to hear through the speaker, smooth and confident in a way that made my skin crawl. Ms. Kumar, I believe you've been in contact with one of our employees regarding some misconceptions about TechFlow's management practices. I'm not sure what you mean, Mr. Chen. Of course you don't. His laugh was cold. Here's what I know, counselor. You've been building a harassment case against several of our key personnel based on fabricated evidence and disgruntled former employees. That stops today. Michelle's grip tightened on her phone. Mr. Chen, if you're calling to threaten. I'm calling to inform you that Sarah Chen is currently under investigation for corporate espionage and theft of proprietary information. Any evidence she's provided you was obtained illegally, which makes you potentially complicit in federal crimes. My stomach dropped as Richard continued, his voice taking on the tone of someone reading from a prepared script. We also have security footage of Ms. Chen meeting with external parties to discuss confidential client information. The FBI takes corporate espionage very seriously, especially when it involves foreign nationals. Foreign nationals. My parents had immigrated from Taiwan when I was 3, but I've been an American citizen my entire conscious life. Richard was playing the xenophobia card, painting me as a potential spy selling secrets to competitors. Furthermore, Richard's voice sharpened, we discovered that Ms. Chen has been accessing personnel files and salary information without authorization, potentially violating federal privacy laws. The question is whether you want to be named as a co-conspirator in her criminal activity. Michelle ended the call abruptly, her hands shaking slightly as she turned to me. Sarah, this is worse than I thought. They're not just planning to destroy your career, they're setting you up for federal prosecution. We were sitting in her car now, parked behind the strip mall while she rifled through her legal documents with increasing urgency. Corporate espionage, violation of the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act, conspiracy to commit theft of trade secrets, they're building a case that could put you in federal prison. But everything I accessed, I had legitimate authorization. Doesn't matter if they can prove you exceeded your authorized access with intent to harm the company, Michelle interrupted. And the foreign national angle gives them a national security hook that federal prosecutors love. My phone buzzed with a text from Kevin, Sarah, where are you? Derek's telling everyone you didn't show up for your meeting. Security is asking questions about your computer access. People are starting to talk. Another message followed immediately, HR just announced you're on administrative leave pending investigation. They're saying you might have stolen client data. What the hell is happening? The character assassination was already in motion, spreading through the office like wildfire. By noon, everyone at TechFlow would believe I was a criminal who betrayed the company's trust. Michelle, how do we fight this? How do we expose their network when they control the narrative? She was quiet for a long moment, studying a document that looked like a court filing. There might be a way, she said slowly. But it's going to require you to do something that could backfire spectacularly. What? Turn yourself in first. I stared at her in disbelief. You want me to confess to crimes I didn't commit? No, Michelle's eyes gleamed with something that might have been hope. I want you to file a federal whistleblower complaint before they can file charges against you. Beat them to the courthouse with the truth. My phone rang again, Derek's number, probably calling to gloat about my absence from the performance review that had been a trap all along. This time, I answered. Hello, Derek. Sarah. Thank God. Where are you? We've all been so worried. His fake concern was nauseating. Janet's been trying to reach you about some irregularities in your system access. Nothing serious, I'm sure, but we need to clear this up quickly. I bet you do, I said quietly. The silence stretched between us like a loaded gun. Finally, Derek's mask slipped completely. Sarah, you have one chance to make this right. Come in now, resign quietly, and we'll handle this internally. Otherwise, I can't protect you from what's already in motion. Thanks for the offer, Derek. But I think I'll take my chances with the truth. I hung up and looked at Michelle. Let's file that complaint. The federal courthouse in downtown felt like a fortress as Michelle and I climbed the marble steps at 2:47 p.m., my whistleblower complaint burning like a beacon in her briefcase. We'd spent 4 hours crafting the most comprehensive document I'd ever seen, 15 years of Derek's network mapped out with forensic precision, supported by Michelle's recorded evidence and my recent documentation. Remember, Michelle murmured as we approached the clerk's office, once we file this, there's no going back. Derek's network will throw everything they have at discrediting us. I thought about Ashley and Maria, blacklisted and struggling. About Kevin, probably being coerced into signing false statements right now. About Jake celebrating his stolen promotion while planning his next career move with Derek's crew. Good, I said firmly. Let them try. The filing process was surprisingly anticlimactic, a bored clerk stamping documents while Michelle explained federal whistleblower protections. Within 20 minutes, our complaint was officially in the system, timestamped and recorded. Derek's network could no longer claim I was just a disgruntled employee making accusations after getting caught stealing files. My phone exploded with notifications the moment we left the courthouse. 17 missed calls, dozens of texts, and voicemails from numbers I didn't recognize. Derek's network was in full panic mode. The most satisfying message was from Kevin, Sarah, something incredible happened. FBI agents showed up at the office an hour ago with a warrant. Derek, Marcus Webb, and Janet Morrison were all escorted out in handcuffs. Jake's locked in a conference room with federal prosecutors. What did you do? Asterisk. Michelle grinned at the message. Federal prosecutors don't waste time when they smell a multi-company criminal enterprise. Your complaint gave them probable cause to execute warrants they've probably been preparing for months. The next few hours unfolded like a fever dream. News vans appeared outside TechFlow's offices. Richard Chen issued a panicked statement about cooperating fully with federal investigators while simultaneously announcing his immediate resignation. Social media buzzed with leaked photos of Derek doing a perp walk past his former kingdom. But the most beautiful moment came at 6:30 p.m. when my phone rang with an unknown number. Ms. Chen. This is Agent Patricia Williams with the FBI. We'd like to thank you for your courage in coming forward. Your complaint provided crucial evidence for an investigation we've been building for 2 years. 2 years. I stammered. We've been tracking this network since their Innovate Systems operation. Your documentation filled in gaps we couldn't access from the outside. Agent Williams paused. I should mention, TechFlow's board of directors called an emergency meeting this afternoon. They're very interested in discussing your future with the company. Michelle squeezed my shoulder as I processed the magnitude of what was happening. Derek's carefully constructed empire was crashing down in real time, taking his entire network with it. The next morning, I walked into TechFlow's offices as a federal whistleblower under protection, not a suspected criminal. Jake's desk was being packed up by security. Tom's sales awards had been stripped from the walls. The break room, once dominated by Derek's inner circle celebrating their latest stolen victories, was eerily quiet. Kevin found me at my desk, grinning wider than I'd ever seen him. Sarah, you magnificent, terrifying genius. They offered me Derek's position this morning. And I told them I'd take it on one condition, that they implement the promotion review process you designed in your complaint. No more boys' clubs, no more stolen credit, no more buried talent. I looked around the office with fresh eyes. Empty desks where corrupt managers once sat. Confused but hopeful employees emerging from months of suppressed potential. A company finally free to reward actual merit instead of golf handicaps and drinking buddies. My computer pinged with an email from TechFlow's CEO, Ms. Chen, the board would like to discuss your immediate promotion to Director of Marketing Strategy, along with a formal apology for the treatment you endured. When you're ready, we'd love to hear your ideas for rebuilding this department the right way. Sometimes justice comes slowly, grinding through bureaucracy and legal proceedings. Sometimes it comes like lightning, destroying corrupt empires in a single day. I smiled and started typing my response.